doing today? This is your boy Dave, saxologist. Thank you for joining me. Today I have a very special guest. If you watched my first John Clemer interview, it was epic. We talked about a lot of things, but like I was saying earlier, there was a lot of meat left on the bones. So John was kind enough to give me another chance to elaborate more on his illustrious career. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to those that don't know and those that do know Mr. John Clemmer. John, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. How are you, Dave?
Oh man, I am doing so wonderful, brother. And once again, I have to just tell you though that I am so humbled at the opportunity to interview such a legend like yourself because I told you at 15 years old, I first heard you and I lost my mind. And I had to get a sax. I didn't get it at that time, but later on down the road in my 30s, I started. And touch was always one, and hush and blow and go.
Oh,
And so I love you, brother. You know.
oh man, I'm so grateful to do this, and I'm so grateful to meet you.
Well, thank you. The
Yeah.
grace is all mine, brother.
Okay.
Hey, John, let me start over with something we left off from the last time. That you left a nugget in my head. I said I had to elaborate on that. You and David Sanborn had the same teacher. Did I hear that right? You guys took lessons from the same guy?
Yes, actually, not at the same time. The
Uh-huh.
gentleman in Chicago, his name was Joe Daly, and he was a really tough, great teacher. And I also think that the saxophone player that was with Miles Davis towards the end of his career. I can't think of his name right now. Bill Evans also studied with Joe Daly, but
Wow.
again, not at the same time. I don't know exactly when Dave studied with him, before me or after me. I suspect before me.
But John, that's not the point. You know what the point is? That's like Shaq and Kobe. You know what I'm saying? That's like Phil Jackson. This guy, your teacher, is like a savant, basically. I mean, he taught some of the best saxophone players in the world. I mean, his marketing, you say, if the guy, advertised, teacher looking for students, anybody looking to take a sax lesson, who have you taught? What? John Clemer, David Sanborn, Bill Evans, I just a couple guys, a couple random guys. So I just had to.
I'll, I'll tell you, my very first lesson with Joe was I had to memorize a Charlie Parker solo, which was about maybe 5, 6 pages long. I had to memorize it and then be able to play it in all 12 keys by the next week.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I almost made it, but he was tough. I was about maybe 15, 16 when I studied with him. So to be honest with you, I shed a few tears that second lesson
Damn.
when I couldn't play the Charlie Parker solo in F sharp. He was a great guy and taught me a lot of stuff. After studying with him for saxophone for a long time, I then decided to study more uh, music theory and stuff like that. I have to share this with one of the greatest compliments I ever received in my life was from Joe Daly, which was a number of years after I was studying with him. And he looked at me and he said, "John, there's no more I can teach you." Wow, and I remember him saying that to me, and I'm going, I gotta think of something more you can teach me. I gotta think of some, but he was a great guy. Yeah, David Sanborn, Bill Evans, and I'm sure he taught some other guys that were maybe not as famous as us, but were as good as saxophone players.
Right, right. Yeah, I understand that. That's a great. That's awesome. Hey, John, this Jazz on the Patio series that you've been doing. By the way, it is just amazing, and I enjoy every one of them. The last one you did, you scattered, and I understand that you were friends with Al Jarreau. Can you scared to elaborate on that?
Well, let's see. there's a great piano player who's on Facebook. His name is Tom Canning. And Tom Canning was working in my band. And at that time, Al Jarreau was just getting started in Los Angeles. And my piano player, Tom Canning, was his accompanist, just the two of them,
Okay.
at a little club in Los Angeles, in the San Fernando Valley. So through Tom, he invited me to come and see him working with Al, and that's when I discovered Al, And I didn't discover him. I mean, I discovered him for myself, And I can't remember the rest of what happened in between, but what happened is that Al invited me to come and do what they call a guest walk-on solo when Al performed at the Greek Theater in Los Angeles.
Okay.
So he brought me on stage and I played and played, and then we traded off. I was then performing at the Roxy Theater, and then he did a surprise walk on during my show, and that's the picture that you saw, the black and white of he and I when he walked on the show on the Roxy Theater, and I believe we were doing All Blues,
Okay.
the song All Blues.
Yeah.
Dum dum ba dum dum ba dum dum
Oh,
ba dum.
yeah, yeah.
He was just beautiful, and then after that we seemed to live in the same area close to Encino. I think he lived in the Encino Hills. And not far from both of our houses was a shoe repair man. And discovered that every once in a while, when I went down to bring my shoes for repair, Al was bringing his shoes for repair. So we would sit in the window of the shoe repair uh, guy, like we both probably did when we were back home, like I did in Chicago and him in Milwaukee. Two guys just hanging out and talking. So we did that at the shoe store window, and then there was a market, a supermarket. Gelson's was the name of it in Encino, and we'd bump into each other shopping, usually late at night. And one time, in the shopping market, there's an area where all the vegetables were, and we bumped onto each other buying sweet potatoes, and we kind of just slid down, on our backs on the floor. We were nibbling on some vegetables and talking in the market, and that's when I was teasing him, and I started to scat sing just a little bit, right? Just a little bit. He laughed great. But I went bubba dabba dabba dabba, and he laughed hysterically. I wasn't gonna keep on singing and scat in front of him.
Right.
But he's a great guy, great artist, absolutely unique. Thank you for mentioning his name, Al Jarreau.
Yeah, he was great. I saw him several times though. Man, did you guys ever talk about maybe doing something together if the stars would have aligned? Did you ever do that?
As far as recording
Yes.
together,
Uh-huh.
no, no, it never came to that. We're just after the time we exchanged uh, guest appearances, we sort of became passing friends.
Okay.
I wasn't that close to him.
Right.
Wasn't that close to him, but enough that we bumped into each other and spent an hour or two talking.
Okay, I understand. Yeah. So let me ask you this, John. How did you come up with your sax solo series? What was the creative idea and the process of doing that? Because that was very breathtaking, and it was different. So what gave you the inspiration to do that?
What made me the inspiration of doing solo sax?
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's an interesting question and an interesting answer, hopefully. When I was in Chicago, just starting out, uh, I was blessed to have a steady jazz gig 6 nights a week with two matinees, and 9 to 5 in the morning.
Well,
Now, when you're about 19, 18, 19 years old, that's not work.
right.
That's a blessing. to be able to play all that night and get paid for it, you know.
Yes, yes.
And what I would do is, since it was 9 to 5 in the morning and we had to play a long time and we had to keep the interest going, uh, every once in a while I would turn around to the band and go like that, give them a signal, and the rhythm section would stop and I'd play by myself for as long as I felt like it, you know, whether it be a fast song or slow song. And the guys in the rhythm section would wait, and then I would give them a signal to come back in. So that's part of how it started. But actually, it started a little earlier than that. When I still lived at home with my parents, uh, if I wanted to practice in the middle of the night, naturally I couldn't to wake them up. So I would go in my father's car. He had a big Cadillac, and I would go in the front or the back seat of my father's car in the middle of the night to practice.
Wow.
Then after then after I moved away from home and I had my own little apartment, I had a one-room apartment 1 block away from Wrigley Field. It was it was amazing. I would always hope that there wasn't a home run. You know, you work late Saturday nights, 6 in the morning, and then you go to sleep about 6 or 7. And I would pray that there wasn't a home run because the organ playing and the people cheering.
Right.
But but I had just this one little one-room apartment, and I couldn't practice there at night and limited during the day. And right around the corner was a big laundromat. So in the middle of the night, I used to go in the laundromat to practice by myself. And then every once in a while, if I got lucky, a bass player friend of mine would stop by and we do a duet in the laundromat. So these continual series of experiences doing solo sax sort of just got habitual and in my head, you know? And so I continued doing it. And when I was out on tour with the band, uh, to give the band a rest for a while, I would do a solo saxophone section of the show, and it kept on going. And then I decided, why don't I record it? Make a solo saxophone record. But I couldn't do it in Los Angeles because I didn't want the record company to know. They probably would think I was nuts or something like that. No, somebody, I can't remember who, somebody offered me some free studio time in a beautiful new studio in Tucson, Arizona. So I flew there, and my parents at that time lived in Phoenix. So I saw my parents in Phoenix, and I went to Tucson, Arizona, and I recorded the solo saxophone album that became Cry. That's the title of the album. And it was a lovely experience. I had my parents sit in the studio with me with the lights out while I recorded the solo sax, you know.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite compliments was from my mother when we were listening playback to the solo sax. My mother said, "I'd like to vacuum the house to that. I'd like that music. I'll vacuum the house to that." So that's the history and what happened. And I did the solo sax album "Cry," and it did very well. A lot of people really liked it. So then I did the second one, which is "Life," and then I'm still doing solo sax with this Sax on the Patio series that I'm posting on Facebook and hopefully other places. And it just, whatever comes to my mind, whatever melody or whatever mood I'm in, I'll record it. And so I'm having great fun with that.
And you sound great, John. I mean, it almost seems like I was going to ask you though, do you have any plans maybe to maybe do some gigs or something? Because you sound great, man. I thought maybe you were getting ready, you know?
I'm starting to feel the hunger for it, you know,
Well, we'd
to
love to see
perform
it.
solo. To perform solo saxophone live, though, is takes a great deal of endurance, you know, and physical stamina. So I have to be very sure that I'm ready, that I have the endurance to do it, and I'm getting there. I am getting older, so I gotta balance things a little bit.
But that's
But
okay.
I'd love to.
That's all right. You sound great, brother. I'm telling you, man.
Thank you so much. I'm having fun.
Now, you know what? I want to ask you, John, about your time with Oliver Nelson, though. You did a tour with Oliver Nelson into Africa, isn't that right?
Yeah. I got a call out of the blue from Oliver Nelson saying he was going to do a State Department, a tour for the State Department of 11 countries in French West Africa: Senegal, Chad, Central African Republic, Niger. I can't even remember the rest of it. It was a 3-month tour. And it was very fascinating to go to Africa. This was in 1969. So we went to some places and performed that no one had performed in Africa yet for the people, you know. And in that band was Ernie Watts was on it,
Oh, wow.
Frank Strozier on alto. I can't remember the trumpet player. I can't remember the bass player. Bobby Morin was on drums. And of course, Oliver played soprano saxophone. And so I got a chance to play all those songs that were on his very successful albums, like Blues and the Abstract Truth,
Okay.
and that, you know, a very fast song called Cascades. And then Oliver kept on kicking it off faster and faster every night to test me, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was 3 months in French West Africa, 11 different countries. Had some lovely experiences with the African people. They were just beautiful. Made some friends, and I brought back some African instruments that were given to me as gifts. You know, a balafon and a couple of drums and everything, and some kalimbas. You know, it was a beautiful experience to once in a lifetime
Yeah.
experience going to Africa.
Yeah, it sounds like it was, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, John, about touring. Okay, when you do your records, which do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy performing the records live, or do you enjoy recording them better?
That's a good question. And I must be honest, I love making records. I love recording. So I would have to say that I enjoy that more. And but playing the songs live, you know, it's like a whole different performance for the song. You know, you can bring new things to the songs and everything like that. So they're two separate entities musically. In
Right.
other words, when I go to tour, I would not try to duplicate the album performance exactly. The melodies, but the solos have to always be different.
Right.
You know that from being an improviser.
Right.
That's the goal.
That's true. You're right. You're right, man. Yeah, man. Well, I tell you what, though, man, you do such a great job with it, and your style, John. I wanted to ask you about how did you develop your style? Because to me, you're almost like the Barry White of saxophone. And what I mean by that
Oh,
is the way you play your horn so sensual. Because as you know, as saxophonists, we sing through the horn. And brother, I'm telling you, man, touch and hush, you don't get more sensual than that.
oh,
So,
wow,
so explain that to me, your writing process.
wow. I'll tell you. You know, uh, having your own sound on a musical instrument is, to some degree, it just happens. For me, I didn't ever consciously work on my sound. All I did is just kept on playing over the years and playing, listening to what I was playing. I listened to a lot of singers, how singers use the inflections of bending, ba, 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 that kind of thing.
Right.
And I like sensuality. I love beauty and I love sensuality. So when I'm playing, I'm sort of in that zone of sensuality, and it's a lovely place to be. And I'm hoping that I can communicate the feeling that I'm having when I'm playing through my horn.
I tell you what, my girlfriend, she wasn't really a big jazz fan when we first got together, but she has no choice now. We've been together 7 years, and she's with me, so she has no choice. But I first played Hush for her. She said, "Who is that?" I said, "That's John Clemer." She said, "Who is John Clemer?" I said, "Listen to this." And then I showed her some of your performances. She's like, "He's awesome." And then when I'm doing what I'm doing now, she's like, look at God. Because she knows that I talked about you and now I'm interviewing you. So I mean that just I just got caught up for a moment, but just wanted to share that with you though. But your music is,
That,
is touching though, brother. Yeah.
yeah, the only way I can explain it is that I love sensuality and I love beauty and I love emotion. You know, I think that over the years, I mean, this is not exactly all the time, but most of the time when I hear a musician play, saxophonist or trumpet or practically any instrument, I can pretty much tell what the guy is like by listening to how he plays and everything. That's not saying it's a negative thing. I'm
Right,
saying it's just how human nature works,
right, right.
especially with even more so with wind instruments, trumpet or saxophone or bassoon or whatever.
Right, right. So John, what do you think about today's music industry now? Versus back when you were doing the vinyls and selling everything, and now it has went to streaming and physical CDs and vinyl are almost like dinosaurs now. So what do you think about that?
Well, I'm sure a lot of people will agree that's close to the music industry that a lot of what happens might be considered to be tragic. The the music, the recorded music seems to be getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, you know. And it's interesting for someone like me in my genre that was successful in the 70s and 80s, and you hear a track played on an MP3, right?
Hmm.
In this tiny little thing, and you remember how you spent hours and hours in the studio mixing and recording that track, and now it's like that, right?
Yeah,
When you put all that work and money into making it sound the best you can, and so the music industry has shrunk and doesn't have what it had before in the 70s and 80s, the support and everything. Um, I'm, I'm, I'm sure if I give it more thought, I could give an explanation why. But right at this moment, I can't really describe what happened with the industry and the record companies, and everything got more and more commercial.
yeah,
Uh, I think I saw that happen in society generally, that everything got to be more money oriented. You know,
yes, yes.
you could you can, you could say greedy. I don't know. But vinyl though is making a comeback. Though a lot of somebody told me the other day that vinyl the last quarter outsold CDs
Is it
and
really?
streaming.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But from a financial point of view, it's pretty rough on artists, especially if you write songs and you own the publishing. Streaming, the royalties are very minuscule.
All right.
You have to have, to make any money from a track that you recorded, you have to have 70 billion streams to make a nickel.
Oh, but
But you love the music and you keep on going and you find other ways to do it if you really love your art and you love yourself too.
yes. All right, I understand that. So, do you have any projects you're working on right now, John? As far as I know you've
In
been
my
recording.
in my head, I do. Yeah, I'm always working on something, but my recent thing is thinking about musically and conceptually is that I want to make a new kind of beautiful. I want to make, how can I make a new kind of beautiful music? You know, with the smooth jazz thing, so much of it is very beautiful melodies, very lovely to listen to, and the textures with it, you know, the Fender Rhodes piano and the synthesizers and the strings and the pads.
Uh-huh.
It's all very, it's very gorgeous. And I always love a challenge. So the other night when I was listening to some playlists that had a series of smooth jazz artists, the new ones that I was also getting caught up with, all of a sudden, you know, that's my thing. I love to try to innovate, try to do new things, you know, looking for a challenge. And that's what popped into my head. And when I said the words out loud to myself, I loved it. I want to create a new kind of beauty. How do I do that? What do I do? I don't know yet, but it's a challenge.
You'll figure it out, okay? Because I'm betting on you, brother. You know.
Yeah.
So you've been listening to some of the young artists. Like, right, matter of fact, I'm going to Hawaii in the morning, and the Aloha Jazz Festival is there. I may not go, but I met a couple of the artists that are going to be there tomorrow, and I may run into
Oh,
them around there. But these young artists like Brittany Atterbury and Adrian Crutchfield, and I mean, they are just amazing, you know. And it's good to see that the younger generation are coming up. They look up to guys like you know, you and Stanley T and Grover and Richard Elliott and all these. But I just love to see the young people, the young artists that are growing up right there before our eyes and doing well too. You know.
I've seen some of the younger saxophone players on Facebook and
Yes.
Instagram, and I'm impressed.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm impressed. You know, however, a couple of times I'll hear some saxophone players that it seems like the only thing they care about is how fast they can play and how loud they can play. And I'm hoping that they will mature into doing things. Actually, Dave, that they mature into doing what I've seen you do on your Facebook posts with your instruments. You're very conscious about melody and taking your time and how you sound. So I've been listening to you, man.
Oh wow. That's Man, that's I don't know how to say. That's awesome, John. Thank you, man. I received it, brother. You know, because I definitely practice a lot, and you know, if I try to play one of your songs, I don't, you know, I definitely got to make sure, you know, just get the melody right. I don't want you to say, Dave, no, don't try that again. You know, so as a matter of fact, what I wanted to ask you, John, segue to this. This is a masterpiece. I
Oh,
love this. So I wanted to ask you,
thank
what inspired you to write this? And to because the music and everything that goes along with this is great. The CD. So talk a little bit about that, man, because this is awesome. By the way,
you. Yeah,
for those you don't know, this is the John Clemer Classic Songbook, and it has
yeah,
a lot of good stuff in it. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
yeah. It's called the Classic John Clemer Songbook, and it has most of the songs that are recorded on the Touch album and the Barefoot Ballet album. And somebody asked me to put a songbook out, and I wanted to give more, so that I had that idea of having a play along CD. So what we did is I found a keyboard player who also knew how to compose MIDI files. MIDI files being uh, just notation files, which then music is applied to the MIDI file. And so he meticulously went over each song to get the background keyboards part right and the bass part right, and to create a play along CD, which is in that book, which I'm very proud of. It took a while to get it to make sure it was the right and the best one. And it's, I think, since you have the book, I'm sure you've read it.
Oh yes, yeah.
It's like what I say on there, that all those songs are my children, and to treat them well.
That's right. And I tell you what, man, and I love this thing. It stays on my music stand. You know, I got my tenor back keyboard
Oh,
and all that. So, I mean,
by the way, to be a little business conscious, that songbook is available online if anybody else wants to buy it.
that's right. Amazon. Amazon is where I got it. So yeah, you can get it in a lot of places.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, Hal Leonard Music Books is the one that distributes it, Hal Leonard. But it's available on all bookstores.
And by
So
the,
if somebody wants to buy one, it's okay with me.
it's one of the best selling ones too. Well, I understand it's one of the best selling ones from the
I
series
think
because
so.
I have several of those books and I've heard that yours is one of the best sellers too. So that's even better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So John, let me ask, what do you think about today's jazz scene in LA though? Do you what do you think about jazz in general in the Los Angeles area? About the club scene and you got any thoughts on that?
Well, it's not like it used to be, you know. I'm sort of spoiled from the 70s and 80s,
Yeah.
but there's a few good clubs. Catalina is
Right.
a nice club
Yeah.
that brings good people in, like Bob James, etc.
Yes. Yeah.
And then Herb Alpert's club called the Vibrato.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
He
I haven't
brings
been
it
there.
up. Oh, it's a lovely, beautiful club. It's a great place to listen to music and good food. I think I was there twice.
Okay.
Really good food and a nice stage, nice stage. And from, there's always little clubs. Well, we can't forget the baked potato.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
baked potatoes always going, always. I think recently coming up or has been Ronnie Foster, keyboard player, just was at the baked potato,
Okay.
and I know Ronnie Foster because he did recordings with me and everything. And there's a couple of other small clubs that I've seen advertisements for on Facebook, etc.
Yes.
I can't remember the names right now, but it seems like there's always little clubs popping up,
That's
and so you just hope that it keeps on growing,
yeah.
and the jazz festivals.
Oh yeah.
There's always that.
Yeah. I go to Spaghettini's a lot, the one in Seal Beach. That's my
Oh,
favorite spot because since I live in Orange
that's
County. Yeah. Yeah.
that's right. I forgot about it. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
never been there yet, but I hear it's great.
So John, let me ask you about fame. How how have you handled fame? Because you've been famous a long time. What are some of the pros and cons of being
Wow.
famous?
Well, fame is a relative thing. It's like how famous are you? A little bit, medium. And there's always someone more famous than you. You know, it's it's like an experience of suddenly having a lot of money, right? And you feel like you're really rich and you have a lot of money, and then you go out to say to look at a house in Malibu or something, and you still can't afford it. How much of money is being rich, But for me, I've never thought about the fame really. I just concentrate on the music and hope people like it. And early on, it was like, if people don't like it, well, I'll accept that. But I'll also try to find out why they don't like it, to find out what more I can learn from it about my own self personally, as an artist and musically. But like on Facebook, I have a lot of friends on Facebook, and it's really a lovely, flattering pleasure. I never had much interaction with fans all my life. I never had a fan page or anything like that. I was just always doing my music, moving on. But here later on in life, for me, being on Facebook, which I'm still new to, having all these people make comments about me and everything, then I get to interact with them. I never had that with fans before, and I'm really enjoying it now. So it's really nice. It's pleasurable
Well,
on
we
a
enjoy it
on
too.
just a basic on just a basic human level. Not yes as an artist, but on a basic human level to have contact with that many people. It's really lovely.
But John, you know what? You are, and I have met a lot of celebrities. I've just met them. I don't know them, but I've met entertainers and ball players and musicians. But in my experience, I have found that jazz musicians are some of the kindest. Like I met Gerald Albright and Art Porter and Jeff Lorber. I've met all of them, and all of them were just kind people, man. Something about you guys, jazz people, is something about the soul. You know what I mean? I don't know, but to me, it just seems like a lot of you. Now, I'm sure there's exceptions because they always are. But just in general, most of the people that I met at the NAM show, like the people I'm going to see in Hawaii, they just kind of just come up to you, how you doing? Just like you and I, John. We've never met, but people wouldn't know that we've never met, you know?
Yeah, I I think that for me, and I assume for all the others guys you're talking about that I've experienced too, there's something about jazz, especially the thought, the idea that one of the fundamentals of being a jazz artist is being an improviser. And what being an improviser is you're instantly composing when you're improvising,
Yeah.
and it makes you humble. The challenge of being a jazz artist and improvising and coming up to a certain level of quality, etc., it makes you very humble and grateful.
That's beautiful. Yeah, man, I believe that too. I definitely believe that. But John, you were raised well though. Your parents did a good job with you because you're a kind soul though. What were you like as a band leader?
uh, Pretty much the same way, you get more with sugar than you do with salt.
Right.
So I never was very rough. Um, that's an interesting question. I like to think that I was a nice guy, but yet uh, what I liked is that instead of having any firm rules or anything like that, uh, the way I tried to gain respect of the guys in the band that I hired was by being the greatest musician that I could. So that when I took the horn out of my mouth and said something, there was an automatic respect there that I earned their respect.
Right. I know one thing, man. Your live performances, though, I can just imagine, though, when you're playing in front of thousands of people like that, and you're playing Hush or Touch or Blowing Gold. When you're playing, do you just go there? Do you zone out and you know what I mean? Do you just get into it and just forget about everything and just play your butt off? Is that what you do?
That's exactly it. Just forget everything and
Yeah.
play your butt off.
Yeah.
It's you could equate it to playing sports. Uh, you could equate it to like golfing,
Right.
to get into a zone,
Yes.
and tennis. You know,
Yeah.
so when I perform live, uh, there's a trick that I learned a long time ago, which a lot of performers know, that you never really look at the audience as a totality. What you do, so you don't get nervous or bothered by other people in the audience, you pick out one person. They don't know it. You pick out one person and you look at that one person, and you perform for that one person as a representative of the whole audience.
Wow. That's a pretty nice trick there, though. That works for you too, huh?
It's
Yeah.
it works. Yeah, it's it's a pretty common trick that I was taught when I was coming up in Chicago, and because if you start looking at 5,000 people looking at you, there you can look at someone who's not in a good mood that night, like that, and they can throw you. So you don't want to look at too many people at the same time.
Oh man, that's awesome though. So so when you're up there on the stage also and you're doing your thing and then you take your break and you let the guys do their thing or whatever, do you ever have to do anything to read or anything sometimes when you're taking a break? You ever have to do any kind of adjustments? Sometimes you take a break. You have to do anything like that every now and then?
Sure, you take an intermission. The only time I ever had to do anything with my horn was if there was something wrong, if I needed to change a reed
Mhm.
or something. Pardon me, change reeds, or the ligature needs to be retightened on
Right,
the top of the mouthpiece. The ligature is the thing that holds the reed onto the mouthpiece.
right.
And sometimes, if it's bothering me pitch wise, I will adjust the
Yeah.
mouthpiece. I'll tell you something that I've never told anybody before. Not that it's that big of a secret, but it just turns out that way since you brought this up. Talking about the trick of looking in the audience and all that. What I do with my mouthpiece is I always tune my horn a little bit high, just a little bit high in the pitch, because I learned that psychologically, unconsciously, the audience can sense that because the pitch of the note, like the note is here, and then I would make sure that my pitch was just about like that, so it gave a lifting sound to all the notes that I'm playing. I do that on the sax on the patio thing. Also, I push the mouthpiece in to make it a little sharper,
Yeah.
and just a little bit to give all the notes I'm playing a little bit of a lift.
Okay.
You know.
Another trick. Well, I tell you, great John Clemer. Well, John, what reeds do you use anyway? What size and what brand reeds are you using these days?
Uh, for quite a while now, I use Rico reeds, which is a famous brand, and I use plastic cover reeds now because they're a little bit brighter and they last longer. You know,
Right.
and I'm playing on a Yamaha silver-plated custom tenor. Of course, I have a Selmer Mark Six always ready in the closet. I used to play that for years, but I switched to the Yamaha silver-plated sax because it was a little brighter sounding.
Yeah.
The same thing with the plastic cover reeds, and the reason why is that with the advent of electronics with guitars, but mostly with synthesizers when they play a pad, when they play a sustained a group of notes, so like a pad in back of you. It turns out that that area of where that pad is right in the sonic area of where the saxophone is. So it can get lost in that pad. So that's why I always trying to find a brighter sounding horn and a brighter sounding mouthpiece so that I can cut through that thick pad of a synthesizer and be heard on top.
All right.
Another another trick.
Another trick. Yeah. So, hey, John, your iconic album, Touch. What was your inspiration? What was the thought process behind that? And when you did make that, did you when you said touch, did you say, I think that's it?
Well, it's a long story in a way, and I'll try to shorten it up. Uh, I took a year off. I didn't record and I didn't perform live. And I just stayed in the house, practiced some, played my piano, composed little pieces at a time, and read a lot of books, psychology, sociology, and just was quiet with myself. The idea being that I was I was interested in moving on to something new. And I had done a lot of albums, you could say, in the John Coltrane straight ahead jazz vein. And then I did one album, sort of like I experimented in my R&B roots, and I still wasn't satisfied. So I took this long sabbatical of a year and read and thought, listened to music, and wrote. Uh, I had a sketch pad of a music book, and I would compose like 2 bars, 4 bars here and there, like that. And it was 5:30 in the morning, and I was still up writing, but I was just sitting at the piano staring out the window. And I went over to the sketchbook, looking at these 4 bars and 2 bars, whatever. And I saw these 4 bars, and I started playing them on the piano. Da da dee da, da 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 da. And I sat back. Who knows how these things happen? I heard the whole album, the whole concept. All of a sudden in my head, I heard all the songs. I heard what the album would sound like. It was like a big flash. It was like everything that I had been reading and studying and thinking about all rushed into my head at one time when I played these 4 bars, which turned out to be the song Touch. And so then after that, I found a co-producer to help me that I liked, who seemed to understand what the goal of the Touch album would be, and got some fine musicians like Dave Grusin and Chuck DeMonico and John Guerin and Joe Percaro, all these very beautiful, sensitive musicians. They were the band for the album, and we recorded it. The interesting thing of it is that the album was all finished, and it was a Sunday afternoon. And again, something hit me in my head, and I called the co-producer. I said, "Is the studio open? Is there studio time available?" He said, "Yeah, why? What do you want to do now?" I said, "Just uh, put up this one track that we recorded, have that on the tape ready to go, and just one vocal mic." And he was going like, "I don't understand what." I said, "You'll understand when I get there." So I got to the studio, and he so kindly had this one song. The original title of it was Stardust Drifter. That was the name of the song, and he had it up. And he had one vocal mic in the middle of the studio. And I went there, didn't say much, and I said, "Roll to the front intro of the song." And went by, and I leaned into the mic when I went, "Touch." And I said, "Now roll to the end of the song." "Okay, Touch." And then I walked in the studio in the control room, and he said, "Is that it?" I said, "Is that it?" Man, that's the whole album right there, Touch, And so that's a short version of how the Touch album happened.
That is totally amazing, man. I mean, it just organically just came to you, and it turned out to be one of your biggest hits ever, right?
Oh, it went through the roof. I had a hunch that it would. As I was making the music, I really felt, actually, that first night when it all hit me, I really felt that I had something that people would like a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe not the jazz elite, it's a funny thing. I had made about 5 or 6, 7 albums before Touch, playing some straight ahead jazz stuff.
Yeah,
And it's interesting when Touch came out and it went through the roof, and there wasn't any place on the planet you couldn't hear it playing, elevators, everything.
yeah,
But all of a sudden, the jazz elitist critics, John Clemer can't play. All of a sudden, it's this thing when an artist gets a commercial success, all of a sudden it's looked on less. But they were so wrong because the music and my playing and the band's playing on Touch was so intense, but in a soft, gentle way,
yeah,
intense.
yeah.
So it could be easily missed by someone who was looking for something else.
Well, the thing about you too, John, is you changed your style, but the thing is, you could play all of it though, and that's the thing about the critics. The critics, they did all you guys. George Spence, they did him the same way. Freddie Hubbard, you make one commercial record, and now you can't play anymore. It's like what is that? all about, But you have to change with the times, though.
It's called life and being human. It's human nature. What are you going to do?
Exactly. Yeah. So, John, let me ask you about some of your famous friends. Uh, did you? I think you met Ringo Starr. Can you elaborate on that?
Oh, that's a funny story. I was at a party at this big home in Beverly Hills. It was a party for my co-producer's attorney for some occasion. And there was a lot of people there, maybe 300 people. And I'm I'm not a real social flirty guy.
Mhm.
I can be sociable and I'm comfortable with that, but yet with all those people, I was sort of hiding from all the people in the corner. And some guy came over to me and said, "John, come with me. There's somebody who wants to meet you. There's somebody who wants to meet you." And I'm going, "Oh, okay." And he grabbed my arm, and I'm saying, "Well, who is this? Who is this?" And I could barely hear what he said because all the people talking. So I thought he said, "Rico, Rico." I said, "What's Rico? That's the kind of reed I play."
Yeah.
And so I went around the corner, and there was some guys standing there in the corner, hidden away from everybody else, like I was, and it was Ringo Starr. And so brought me up, and we shook hands and chatted for a while about music for a short time. You know, shook hands, and he was so nice and great. As I walked away, I turned around with a big smile, and I said, "You're not a Beatle, you're a drummer." And he said, "That's right, mate. That's right, mate." So that was funny. It showed what a down to earth guy he was. Because when we chatted that few minutes, all we talked about was exchange some stuff about music, about drumming and sax playing.
Yeah.
So he was a real guy. There was another experience I had when I was about 15 years old. Starting in Chicago, I was going on the road with these big bands that they would hire musicians for a week's tour or whatever. And it was in the summertime. I think it was in Cincinnati, and it was an outdoor uh, summer festival with a number of different acts on it, right? And I think the band that I was with was going to go on third time, which had to wait for it. So I always loved to practice. So I'm immediately going, well, we got all this time off. I'm going to go find some place to practice. So I'm walking around, and then I see in the parking lot, right, all the big buses that all the different bands had taken to this festival, and they're all sitting in the parking lot, right? So I'm going, maybe I can climb into one of those buses, right? So I'm walking around and I'm carrying my horn, and I see it's like a Greyhound bus with the door open, right? And I go, oh, great. I can crawl in there and sit in the seat and practice. And as I'm walking towards the open door, I'm hearing, I'm hearing all these vocal sounds, rah, rah, rah. And I peek around the corner, and sitting behind the big steering wheel is Louis Armstrong, sitting there making noises like he's driving, like a little kid. Room, 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 right? And I looked at him, stared at him, and he looked back at me, you know, not embarrassed or anything. He just looked back at me going, room, 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 you know. So that's my Louis Armstrong sighting.
Do you ever are you in touch with any of your former bandmates, guys that played in your bands or guys you played with, any of your long time, guys that you played on the road with? You in touch with some of those guys?
Not so much the guys on the road. Well, actually, I just got a surprise message on Facebook from a drummer, Chester Thompson, who had played with Weather Report and all that, and worked with me.
Okay.
And so, yeah, Chester, Tom Canning is a great piano player, great guy. We're in touch every once in a while. Roy McCurdy, great drummer, who worked with me. Now, Roy played for years with Cannonball Adderley.
Okay.
Be, before he worked with me. And when he was working with me, he was working with Nancy Wilson at the same time.
Okay.
So Roy McCurdy, great drummer. Uh, Luis Conte was a conga player. And I can't remember them all now. And also guys that I recorded with, Dave Grusin, um, Lenny White on drums.
Oh, Lenny White was
So
awesome. Yeah.
a lot of great guys. Yeah.
And you've played and toured with some of the greatest artists in the world, man. And
Yeah.
you've had a blessed career, John.
Especially
Yeah.
especially recording. You know, when in Chicago, when you had a band, uh, the idea was, as in all jazz groups, that each person in the band has an equal amount of say and individuality, right? Uh, that's really great. But as a band leader, and especially when you're composing and writing your own music, you don't have necessarily a lot of control. You can control the melody and everything, but when it comes to the solos and the style of the solo, how long, how short, you don't have much control over that because each guy in the group is an individual. Now, when I moved to Los Angeles, I discovered that Los Angeles had this fantastic studio musician uh, world. And the whole thing about these great musicians that were studio musicians, uh, uh, playing on other people's albums and things like that, and for movies, part of their job was that you would hire them and they would play the way you wanted them to play. They still use their own individuality, and as a band leader myself, it was up to me to choose the right guys that I felt for the music that I wanted, you know. And most of the time, I didn't even have to tell them what to play. They would see the music that I wrote out and the song, and they would think it, and they would just play it naturally. But I started using uh, studio musicians and the idea of making an album as an art form in itself, as a craft and an art form in itself.
That's amazing.
It was great, great fun,
Yeah.
great fun.
So have you ever thought about teaching anywhere, John? Did you ever do that before? Did we teach at a privately or go to a university to teach anything like that? Did you ever do anything like that?
No, I studied a lot privately. I took a lot of private lessons in music theory, conducting, arranging.
Oh, okay.
Uh, yeah, I studied with a great arranger by the name of Albert Harris, who also taught me a lot about how to write for movie films and things like that. And so got to learn that. And private lessons. classical saxophone, jazz saxophone, you know. And in my sophomore year of high school, I had a beautiful experience in Michigan. There's a place called the Interlochen Music Camp, also known as the National Music Camp, that you would go for a whole summer, and it was quite expensive. So my parents paid for that as a gift for me, and I went to a whole summer at the National Music Camp in Interlochen, Michigan, and you just got up every day, all day long. You had saxophone lessons, piano lessons, composing lessons, da 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 da, all day, all summer, 24 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
And then, of course, you would sit up at night and write out your homework, you know, the lessons and things like that. And that's a beautiful place, you know, especially when you're young. And they had concert bands, big concert bands and small groups and everything. Yeah. So yeah, that taught me a lot of stuff. And pretty much after that, I was cool.
Yeah.
I think I sort of felt like I knew enough for at least for a while.
Do you
Every once
practice
in a
now?
while, I'll still pardon.
What do you practice now when you practice? Though, do you have any routines that you do when you practice now?
I don't practice anymore. I play.
That's the same thing. Playing is just as good as
Yeah,
practice.
yeah, right. Yeah. It's a matter of how you approach it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
When I do these sax on the patio solo sax videos, that's me practicing really.
Okay.
I'm performing and I'm coming up with melodies and everything, but that's how I practice by playing the horn all the time.
It's touching
I
on
don't I don't
everything.
necessarily I don't necessarily sit down and go ba 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 unless I need to.
Right.
Then I'll do it, you
Well, you
know.
did all that's you've already done all that. Right now, you're just in the thing is, because you know all that anyway, though. You know all your major scales and all that if you need it. So it's not. It's like the back of your hand now. You know what I mean? So it's all
Pretty
good.
much so, but you always gotta go back and brush up on things always, you
This is
know.
true. This is true, though. Yeah, yeah. Because you forget
And
sometimes.
you'll understand this. Every once in a while, I'll go, boy, oh boy, I have to brush up on playing in the key of F sharp.
Yeah, oh, so speaking of that, I wanted to ask you, when you wrote songs, so did you have any favorite keys that you would write your songs in? Anything that was more to your liking? You know,
Actually, it's a very smart question. When I would be composing at the piano, I would always be aware of what key the saxophone would be in, and that I would have to play the melodies and improvise. And so, your fundamental keys like E flat concert, C concert, B flat concert, A flat, E flat concert, C concert. So I stayed, to be quite frank, and embarrassingly so, tried to stay away from a key that had too many sharps in it, right?
you speaking to the choir, brother. Give me the key of G all day.
Yeah, you
D
ask good
major.
questions, Dave.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know what? I can understand that because you're the one that's got to do all the playing. So why you want to put G flat major on there when you can put D major on there or something though? A major, right? Yeah.
That's right. But as you know, each different key plays different on the saxophone
True. True.
where it falls, you know.
So you
And
transpose it. Yeah, with the transpose.
yeah, yeah, everything. You put a piece of music in front of me, it has to be concert C because I automatically sight transpose everything.
All right.
Yeah, Dave, you asked great questions.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you, John. You know what? I tell you what, this has been a pleasure once again. We're coming up on almost on that time, but I wanted to ask you, uh, where can people find all your information, your websites or whatever? Can you just give the people where they can find all your music and everything?
Yeah, there's johnclemmer.com. The only thing about my website is that it's still only available for laptops. We haven't changed over everything for digital to be on the phone and everything. But johnclemer.com. My YouTube channel, it's got a lot of videos on there. The John Clemer official YouTube channel, and to some degree the Facebook and Instagram. But I would say YouTube has got tons of videos, many of which I made myself.
All right, awesome. So also, I know, are you available for other interviews?
Oh yes, I am. Before I forget, as you might recall, I have a new CD out this year. It's called Chateau Love, and it's available online wherever you want to buy music, and it's called Chateau Love. And I'm very proud of it. Did a lot of great stuff on it.
It's really good, John. You know, I've listened to it several times. It's really good. So you you're like a chameleon, brother. You come out, you change it up, and it still sounds like John Clemer. You know,
Thank you very much. That's a great compliment to have your own individual sound.
John. Also, we spoke the last time about the NAM show coming up in January. God willing, I'd love for you to come down there. We can hang out.
Boy, oh boy, I would sure love it.
So we'll
I
see,
would
we'll
sure
see
love
what
it.
happens when it gets close. And 'cause I'm in walking distance, I can walk down to the convention center now. So yeah,
Oh, really?
so it's
That's great.
about 2 or 3 miles away. So yeah, I'll walk over there. But it'd be good to see you over there, man. You
Great.
get to try out some of the new horns and see some of the Rico. You see some of the, your people that your vendors, the Yamaha people, and I love the
Yeah,
musicians, the Yamaha people. They have a great room every year, though. Yeah,
yeah. Yamaha's a great company.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was at the NAM
Yeah, the NAM
quite a
show.
few years ago, and I found it to be a little bit overwhelming. Boy,
It
there's a
is.
lot of stuff going on.
It is. It's loud too. It is a lot of licks, the land of licks in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we will meet there and hang out.
Sounds good. And we still gonna have that lesson too. One day, that private
I
lesson.
promise you,
All right.
we're going to get together. We're going to get together. We're not that far apart.
No, we're
That
not.
you're pretty close. We're pretty
Yeah,
close.
yeah, we're gonna hook up, John. You know what? I tell you what, I appreciate you, brother. I thank you for your time. I appreciate everything you've done in the music industry for all of us, on behalf of all the fans on Facebook and YouTube. We really appreciate you the way that you interact with the people like myself, because not all artists do that. So we love you for that too, brother. Keep being you, John. You are a wonderful human being, brother.
Wow, those are beautiful words to hear. Thank you so much.
Well, you take care,
And the
brother.
same to and the same to you, sir.
You take care. We do it again sometime, all right?
You betcha. Have a great day.
You too. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Clemmer, you guys have a great day. Thank you for watching. This will be loaded up on YouTube and Facebook later. So thank you all. Your boy Dave Saxologist is checking out. Take care.